We've been covering, but I want to continue the way that Republicans, Fox News hosts, right-wing media figures of other kinds are realizing what we've known for a long time. But they're starting to realize it because of this current moment with the speakership battle. The Republican Party is a disaster, an embarrassment. It's crumbling, and it's on full display with their current inability to just pick a leader, not even get things done with that leader, just pick the leader, which, by the way, normally we're debating on, okay, the leadership, that's decided on super early, super easy process. And then it's how successful can the legislation be and how effective of a legislator and leading a legislative body is the Speaker of the House. But just getting a Speaker of the House is this massive challenge, as we've now seen two big rounds, the very beginning and what we're seeing here. And I do think because of how widely reported on it is, and just it's very visual, it's all happening in front of people's eyes. Now Republicans are getting embarrassed, even though behind the scenes, people like myself have been yelling about, or not yelling, but shouting from the rooftops about the lack of a serious commitment to effective governance within the GOP. This MAGA part of the Republican Party, these hardliners, they are on a daily basis, even when we're not in big climactic moments like this one, getting in the way of effective governance. And that's something we should be against. We should want serious policymakers and serious solutions being implemented by those policymakers. And that's not what the MAGA part of the Republican Party and just the Republican Party more broadly represents. It's just not. And we're seeing that again on full display now with this whole speakership battle. And members of that party within it are going, this is crazy. This is really ridiculous. And I have some examples of that for you here from CNN.
District like yours at risk?
Yeah, it does. These guys want to be in the minority. That's exact. I think they would prefer that because they can just vote no and yell and scream all the time. And but governing, you gotta work together.
It's a tough scenario, but there are people in there that are honorably trying to get to the right place, and then there are people in there, as you know, that like to go on the TV and are not necessarily negotiating for anything other than TV time.
How does that make you guys look?
Makes us look like a bunch of idiots.
Our Republicans will meet again on Friday morning at 10 a.m. to try to figure out their way forward.
And then Monty Roger breaks down there what is now a little bit old news. They met on Friday and nominated Jim Jordan, but then realized he doesn't have enough to actually win and went off for the weekend. Let's take another vacay while we're not getting anything done. So it's fascinating because I'm sure they recognize this, but they weren't willing to call it out. You heard there Don Bacon pointing out, and Austin Scott, who tried to run himself for speaker. This is all for the cameras, and it's jeopardizing. Don Bacon was confirming risky Republican seats, congressional seats, because if you have these districts that Biden won, meaning they're at least purple districts or even blue that Republicans were able to win on the congressional level, and those voters see this, they're going to be more likely to go, okay, this is just a debacle. Even if you have issues with the first 2 years of Biden's presidency with Democrats having majority in the House and the Senate, things were getting done. American Rescue Plan, once in a generation infrastructure investment, the Inflation Reduction Act, largest investment in green energy in history, lowering prescription drug costs, actual achievements were being implemented. And what is there that Republicans could point to and say, we actually improve people's lives with this, with our leadership and our governance in the last, I don't even know how many years, but especially very recently. And so that does come from, as Don Bacon's realizing, this lack of governance is going to cause for likely voters to reject the Republican Party. Hopefully that happens, especially in risky districts. And if you go deeper, the lack of serious governance does come from what people like Don Bacon and like Austin Scott and many others were far too unwilling to call out, which is this MAGA Trumpist sort of part of the GOP. And they thought, it'll cause a lot of trouble if I push back against this. And in the short term, it's politically advantageous to go along to get along. While many people were begging them to call out unserious people and often very dangerous people like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Greene, and many others. And they didn't. And now Don Bacon's having to come out and say, my district and other risky purple districts are being threatened by this behavior. Well, it's the bed you made, I guess is how I would word that there. Then moving on. And that's just presented with no comment. Just as Brian Tyler Cohen sent this out on X, George Santos right now, Republicans equal chaos. Indeed. That's just the ruckus that's going on. And then I want to show you Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, calling on House Republicans to figure their stuff out very nicely. Here is Karine Jean-Pierre.
Sort of uncharted territory that this is. There is not a role
territory.
Yeah.
It
so,
is.
No, I understand that. So I'm asking, there's not a role then that the administration sees that the president could play here to try.
It is not for us to fix. It's not for us to fix the chaos in the House Republicans. It's not for us to fix. They have the majority, as you know, in the House. It is for them to fix. We've never seen a conference behave this way or be this chaotic. It is important for Republicans who have the majority to figure this out, and get there and get they created the situation and they have to figure it out and elect their speaker so we can move on.
I 100% agree with that message. This is their responsibility. You have the majority. As is always the case, that means you have to figure out who's going to be the speaker and then have them lead your conference. I do think it would be really cool if moderate Republicans are really that fed up. This would be so wonderful. Because Hakeem Jeffries already has 213 votes, I think it is. Or 12 maybe. He has all the Democratic conference. You just need a few Republicans to say, you know what? Clearly my own party can't figure this out. I'll go vote for who the Democrats support. And we could have a Speaker of the House, Hakeem Jeffries, and start getting things done again. And I'm sure that would be politically brutal to ever cross your own party like that. But I think these same Republicans feel crossed by the hardliners preventing any speaker from being selected. So my call would be either figure out yourself, or the Democrats are ready and able to assist in getting you a speaker. It's just going to have to be Hakeem Jeffries, and no negotiations there. Then you have Kevin McCarthy, the former Speaker of the House, who clearly wants to become Speaker again. He's kind of waiting for his moment, and it might end up happening. We'll just have to see. Getting asked, do you worry this disarray will cost you guys the majority in 2024? And normally you get asked if you're going to lose the majority, even if it's really clear in the polls. Almost every politician says, no, we're going to do it this time. Woohoo. Kevin McCarthy pretty much admits, yeah, a lot of bad stuff's going on right now in our party, so maybe.
This disarray will cost you guys the majority.
I think a lot of things have happened so far that make a real damage for us moving forward. I have fear of different people retiring. I fear of having the resources to be able to do the job. I fear that what has slowed us down on the amount of legislation we're already passing.
So I'm not sure why he's speaking in that sort of poemish way. I fear on a boat. I fear on a goat. I fear on a plane and in the train. But he is fearful, apparently. Wherever it's happening, whatever it's about, he is fearing that this is hurting the Republican Party. And I don't wish upon our country what we're seeing, this chaos, because it hurts us as a country. As long as it is taking place, I hope it helps Democrats politically, because it should. That is the rational response from the voters to this type of chaos. And even though it is a Republican-Democrat thing, it doesn't have to be. Any Republican that is tired of this, like I said, go on and unify with Democrats. A lot of Democrats, as we saw in the first 2 years of Biden's presidency, very passionate about bipartisanship, very passionate about working across the aisle with reasonable Republicans, like the infrastructure law or the PACT Act, the Chips and Science Act, bipartisan pieces of legislation that are impactful. And so if you want to start ridding from your party this unserious and really unproductive part of it, again, my suggestion would be go and get more unified with and work with more often the more serious part, the adults in the room, which currently, hate to say it, no I don't, are Democrats. And just one more response to what we're seeing I want to play for you here. Mike Pence, also sick of it.
Steve Scalise won a competitive race against an outstanding member of Congress, Jim Jordan. Both of those men are my friends. I admire them greatly. They'd both be great speakers of the House. But the idea that after a majority of the members of Congress voted for Steve Scalise to be the conference choice for Speaker, the fact that other members defected from that, I think it's a breach of trust. And I honestly believe that the adults in the room on Capitol Hill, all of whom I know, men and women of great character, ought to sit some people down. Just ask them if they want to be on the team.
So oh gosh, I don't know why that got to me. Mike Pence is just the king of saying something without saying anything at all. Listen, I sit them down and ask them, do you want to be on the team? Is that what you want? How's that going to change what's happening, Mike? But he was the vice presidential running mate with Donald Trump. I don't want to hear it, Michael, about, or I don't want to hear anything about the adults in the room from you, sir. I guess we'll end it there. I had more clips to look at, but this is running long, this segment. So there's kind of the response. Republicans very unhappy with their own party as things crumble on that front.